Good morning, everyone, and thank you for joining us today. My name is Trent Wynn, and I'm the events coordinator at Kappa Factory, where I run programs and events. Enough about me, and welcome to day 2 of Global Entrepreneurship Week. Before I get started, please let us know where you're joining in from in the live chat. Also, throughout the session, please feel free to send us your question, and we'll do our best to get them all answered. Today, we're here to learn about how Biotech Plus Hub at Pegasus Park can help entrepreneurs, scientists, and researchers secure funding in North Texas. With that being said, I can't imagine anyone else better fit to lead the discussion than Claire Ultrich. Claire recently rejoined UT Southwestern after 8 years working at a local biotech venture fund. Her roles throughout the years have included technology commercialization, improving patient outcomes through quality-based initiative, working with disease-specific nonprofits, development and venture philanthropy, biotech and life science investing through venture capital. With that, I'd like to welcome Claire to the stage.
Thank you so much, and thanks for having us on this panel for Global Entrepreneurship Week. We're so excited about the opportunity to tell everyone what we've been working on for the last few years and how we really think we've got an opportunity to not only improve patient outcomes and get better cures into the clinic for patients, but also really diversify the Dallas economy and bring lots of high-paying, good jobs to the region. What we're going to talk about today is the Biotech Plus Hub at Pegasus Park, which is going to be not just a place, but also a spirit, a place where all of the people who are part of this ecosystem, the scientists, the entrepreneurs, the financiers, the legal teams, can all be together and work together in order to try to take science and scientific discovery out of the laboratory and into the clinic. What we've done is pulled together the panel of the folks who've been working on this, a project that's really near and dear to my heart for the last few years. And I'd like to welcome the different speakers who are going to be joining me. Adam Milne is joining us, and Adam is the Chief Operations Officer at BioInnovation, which is a national network of incubators for biotech. It's incredibly important for biotech companies to be able to do those first experiments to understand if there's something there or not. And being able to have a biolabs facility near campus that allows our faculty and the startups to do that in a cost-effective and time-efficient manner will be very beneficial to the local ecosystem. Also joining us is Nicole Small. Nicole Small is the CEO of Lyda Hill Philanthropies and Lyda Hill Investments. And Nicole has worked very hard and tirelessly over the last 2 decades on science in North Texas. She was the CEO of the Perot Museum of Nature and Science. And through that work, got to know Lyda Hill, and then recently, well, I guess not quite as recently, but moved over to Lyda's group and is working diligently to help, put the work and the infrastructure in place to help these companies grow. As Lyda always likes to say, science is the answer. Also joining us is Steve Davis. And Steve is the President and Chief Operating Officer of J Small Investments. And they're the owner of this Pegasus Park space, and really able to help us operationalize how we take this vision that we have in our head of a place and a spirit and a culture of innovation and turn it into something real. So with that, I'd like to welcome all of you to the panel. All right, so what we first want to do, I'd like to pose a question to Nicole first, and just ask Nicole what has she seen in the last 10 years that made her excited about the idea of the Biotech Hub Plus at Pegasus Park, and to tell us in her own words, what do you see that the Pegasus Park Biotech Plus Hub will bring to our ecosystem?
Well, first of all, Claire, thanks so much. We're really thrilled to be here today and share with everybody the plans that we've got for the Biotech Plus Hub. And obviously, Claire, we wouldn't be here without you. I feel like you're sort of the glue in all of this, the entrepreneurs, the capital, the medical school, all the ideas. So I'll answer, but you feel free to jump in at any time, since I feel like this is your baby as much as anybody's. So As everybody knows, we actually are a center for life sciences here. UT Southwestern has a long history of generating incredible IP. The tech transfer office has resulted in a variety of pretty incredible exits over the last couple of years. But North Texas has never really been known as a biotech hub. We're known for a lot of things here. So we've been known for science and entrepreneurship and some things separately, but we've really over the last 10 years sort of watched the evolution of ideas and capital and interest in science increase in a way that we thought, gosh, there really is what people are calling this third coast opportunity. So there's amazing work going on either coast. And sometimes the science and the community here gets undervalued because it's not in the Bay Area and it's not in Cambridge. And we really have been out to change that. We think there's tremendous human capital here. There's tremendous science. And we really felt like the time was right. We've studied it at Idaho Philanthropies several times over the last decade. Is the time right to really make a large investment to bring the groups together? And we've looked at it on and off and at times decided that there was capital, but there weren't the ideas. There was the science, but not enough capital. There weren't the right people. But over the last couple of years, we've really seen those things begin to come together in a way that we feel like it's sort of the perfect storm and the time is right to pursue, as Leda says, that science is the answer and to really build this ecosystem here in Texas. And so we launched this project almost a year ago in partnership with Biolabs, with J Small Investments and Pegasus, with the medical school, to really begin to focus on bringing these opportunities for entrepreneurs to stay in Dallas, to raise their companies in Dallas and raise their families in Dallas, and to really monetize the science and the tech that we have in our own communities. And we think there's a tremendous opportunity here. COVID, frankly, has only accelerated that. For a long time, people believed we didn't necessarily have the talent here in Texas to pursue this sector. What we've learned during COVID is there are so many bright people here and so many entrepreneurs actually that are focused and have been traveling to either coast. Well, when you can't travel, you decide to keep your roots here. And what we've learned is that there's a huge amount of human capital here and lots of great ideas, and people want to be here in Texas now. So we're excited about the Pegasus Park project. Biotech Plus Hub, just so everybody understands, is focused on life sciences. It's also focused on tech related to healthcare. So it's sort of a broad application for all things that we think are going to make the community and the world a better place.
Thanks so much. Adam, one of the things that when we started working on this project, it was incredibly important for us to bring in the kind of people who knew what they were doing and had done this in other ecosystems. And we were so excited when we connected with Biolabs and got you guys interested in North Texas. Can you tell us a little bit about what you, as somebody who's done this in other ecosystems, what did you see in North Texas that made you think this was the place that led you to put a stake in the ground in the middle of the country for the first time?
Well, thanks again. Obviously we wouldn't be here without all of you on the panel here. So you were the magnet that drew us. I think for us, we've learned over the years and very quickly that all the ingredients that Nicole has listed and that you see, Claire, are really important. Things like venture capital funding, great tech transfer offices, all of that stuff matters. But the one thing that I think is the differentiator for us is we need to find people with both vision and passion. Because you can have all those other things, but science is a business that you fail at most of the time. And if you're in this to be, to turn it around and to have a huge exit, a year later, this is not really the game to be in. For us, we are very thoughtful in who we partner with, and we need people that have that vision, that understand that this is a long journey, that will have some amazing, exclamation points, but it'll have tough moments as well. And so, I think we've all met in different parts of the country as you're looking at different biolabs, and it was clear that Claire, you brought all of the passion and the vision around tech transfer, and how do you take the energy that's out there in the ecosystem and bring it in. Nicole, you you have the vision as well, and the passion. You all have the vision and the passion to really think about how do
There
we.
is no shortage of passion on this call.
There's no shortage but how do we make this a long story, right? I mean, as investors, Steve, you as well, this is going to take a while for us to plant the seed and watch it grow. And so I think that was the big reason for us choosing Dallas, is that we knew that we had the right team on the ground and the right people that had the right heart and passion and vision. That's the one thing I think that you'll see that differentiates geographies that are successful and that aren't in this model. It's that missing intangible.
That's so great to hear. Sometimes I think a lot of passion can be exhausting for other people. Steve, will you talk a little bit? I know that J Small Investments had the Pegasus Park campus for a while, and we're really kind of thinking, what can we do with this? We want to do something meaningful and really capture the spirit of the building and the fact that it was kind of the corporate headquarters for a couple of different companies before. What did you think when you first started talking with Nicole and me about the potential for this?
Yeah, thank you so much for having me today. I'm really excited to talk about this. This is a project that we purchased from ExxonMobil back in 2015, and this was a former part of their headquarters operations. It was originally built for Zale Jewelers in the late 1970s, and so it's really interesting for us as real estate owners and developers to look at something that has got this history and context within Dallas and to transition it into the future and try to find the elements that we can put together on a campus. There's 23 acres on the site, and so we view this as a really unique opportunity. There's this incredible infrastructure that's in place today. So how do we find the right elements to put together? We talk a lot about putting the chocolate and the peanut butter together, and that's what we're trying to do at Pegasus Park. The proximity to UT Southwestern, the proximity to downtown, to Love Field, these are all elements that can make a project really successful. You have to be able to integrate those somewhat seamlessly. So the Biotech Plus is obviously one of the really key elements here, but it doesn't work in a vacuum. And so what we're trying to do is to surround all those life science and tech-related healthcare folks and infrastructure with complementary uses and complementary participants within the campus. And so we're doing that through Social Impact Hub. That's going to be a large element of Pegasus Park. About a little over 150,000 square feet of the project is dedicated to social impact organizations, whether they be nonprofits, family offices, philanthropies, things like that. Those are all working together. A lot of those touch on elements of life science. And so that's a really interesting way to start to get those folks interacting together within Claire, the word that you use that I love is ecosystem. These guys are going to interact. There's going to be these casual collisions of being together on campus every day. And the benefits of that, I think we've imagined them. Once everyone gets on site, we're really going to see the multiplier effect of having everybody in one place. And then you add in traditional commercial tenants and for-profit venture funds and things like that, that obviously there's a network of that's here in Dallas today. But we think that this is going to be a magnet that's going to help attract, rather than just preventing an exodus of talent and capital from North Texas. This is going to be something that's going to be attracting talent and capital and investment and companies. A lot of these companies are already coming from the coast. Texas is a really attractive location to begin with. We think this is going to make it even more attractive for companies with those types of interests.
It's funny. I always think, as when you look at it from a chemistry perspective, if you want a reaction to happen, you get those molecules closer together so they bump into each other. And so what we're trying to do is to do that on a macro scale so that all the right people will bump into each other and make reactions happen.
We're totally stealing that for the next pitch we have. Thank you.
I'm writing it down for our marketing materials. Thank you.
It is. It's absolutely, everything comes back to science, doesn't it? So what do we think? How do we want to start? We're telling the story. Obviously, we're here. We want everybody to be excited about this. One of the things we really want Pegasus Park to be is the place where everybody wants to come. And, you know, Steve didn't mention this, but one of the things that I'm really excited about are all the other amenities there. The idea that you can grab a cup of coffee or go to community brewery and grab a beer, which, as all of you on the phone know, my belief is that beer is the very first biotech. But what are some of the other things, and Adam, I'd love for you to answer this first. What are some of the ways that we can reach out to our community that you've seen in other markets that will help kind of strengthen that magnet, for lack of a better phrase?
Well, I thought we agreed, Claire, that all the hard questions were going to Steve. So, no, you know, I think there's a lot of ways that we look to draw the community in. You know, we have great partnerships. You know, part of what our mission is to make sure that, as I said earlier, you know, science, we're partially in the business of failure, right? So we want this journey to be as seamless as possible for our residents and our entrepreneurs and our you know, first-time entrepreneurs, serial entrepreneurs. So part of what we look to do is we look to help them build that story, and we look to bring in programming to help them think about things that they might not have thought about before. If you're a first-time, you know, out of a lab, maybe protecting IP isn't something that you've ever thought about. So we build all those elements into the ecosystem through our programming. I know that, you know, Nicole has had great experience as well doing that sort of thing. So we're going to be leaning on each one of you, but we also have our own team internally that looks to connect. And so there's the programming aspect. Then there's, as you said, there's the casual collisions. There's the forced friction points, like, you know, the coffee shops, the again, somewhat intangible things, the moments where people can just run into each other, be outside, have an idea. I must say though, Steve, as you're talking about Zales being the headquarters and then it being ExxonMobil, that it's sort of, it seems fitting, right? That we're in biotech now, because the whole history is about mining for rare and valuable things, whether it be gems or oil, and now we're mining for a cure. So you can
feeling that too. Thank you. We got chemistry and mining now. This is excellent.
Incredibly useful.
All right. No, that's I mean, it's a pretty simple thing for us. I think it's just making sure that we have the right people, and we create those moments for folks. And so I'll turn it over to you, Claire.
Claire, just to jump in here, sorry. I mean, you know, the other thing that we don't talk about, especially in a world where, you know, whether it's climate or COVID or cancer, right, which is sort of our reality, that science is going to be the only thing that fixes those things. You know, what we don't hear a lot in 2020 for sure is the word fun too, right? Which I know sounds kind of ironic given the world we're living in, given how serious some of the work is that we're talking about. But what we're trying to build at Pegasus is actually a sense of place and a sense of fun. And that passion is where, right? I mean, the people who are starting these companies and taking the entrepreneurial risk to spin out of their lab or start a new healthcare tech company, they have a passion for the world to make it a better place, right? And, you know, you want to go to work in a place, and I think we've all learned this year. You know, I think at the beginning of the pandemic, everyone kind of freaked out and said, oh my God, work from home is going to stay forever, right? And I don't know about everyone else. I'm super happy to sit here in my home office safely today, but I will tell you, right, I think we all miss being around people. You don't realize how important those casual collisions are. You don't realize how important that coffee meeting is. And so I think we're trying to build a sense of place for when we can get back in the office. And ironically, the timing actually is going to be perfect. We're going to open in 2021. We do believe through science, thank goodness, that the world is going to be a safer place to enter. You know, it might not be the same as it was in 2019, but we also have the good fortune of being in the process of this development during a time when we can actually build a safe campus, right? And by the way, we've got some incredible scientific innovators who are working with us to think about how do you make this a safe place to come to work. But by the way, it should be fun. You should want to be in this space and place. And I think that's what we've all learned in 2020 is we miss those casual collisions because it's also what like lifts us up, right? Many of us derive value from being around other people. It opens our minds, it opens our hearts, it allows us to think different ways. If you're only in your own kind of sphere all day, every day, sometimes your mind doesn't get opened. And to Adam's point, if I've only ever done things this way, I might not think that, gosh, my company will be more successful if I do it this way. And that happens right in the elevator. That happens with those coffee. It happens when I know that a company like Tasha's in my building and I can go talk to RA Session about, can you walk me through your journey? Because I am 2 years behind you. And, I want to understand how you got to where you did. So those are the fortuitous, opportunities that you'll be afforded playing bocce ball or having a beer, or setting up a formal meeting. So that's a big part of what Pegasus is about too, right? It's the fun part too.
And I think that's one of the things, like you said, that we've really learned in 2020 is that we absolutely are capable of safely doing our job from home, but we're kind of missing that creative spark that comes from, when, just like when two molecules collide, they let off a little bit of energy. When two people collide, great things happen. And so I think that this is something that we, again, we recognize there's an importance to the community, and that, what we're working to build is a community that is bringing lots of different types of people together, but all with that underlying goal of how do we, like the title says, improve outcomes, find cures, find ways for people to live a better life, but also create job opportunities and investment opportunities for our region.
Yeah, Claire, I think just to piggyback on what Adam and Nicole mentioned, I think part of what differentiates a successful real estate development from others is that sense of place that Nicole alluded to. And, I think you've heard each of us refer to this as a campus. And that really is the sense of place that we're trying to create here. When you think about, your journey of going away to college and arriving on campus, and the diversity of interests and the diversity of talent and passions that are there, that's one of the really most educational pieces of going away to college, is going and being surrounded by people that, maybe have general similar interests, but, are passionate about all these different varieties of things. And then you mix in the fun with that, and you mix in that, hey, I'm not just here to learn. I'm not just here to work. I'm here to make my life better and make the world better in a lot of different ways. And so that's the spirit that we're trying to evoke with Pegasus Park, is this campus kind of feel. And so whether you're in the beer garden at Community Brewing, having a beer and talking to your colleagues, or playing bocce ball, or sitting out by a fire pit after work, those are we want you to come and be able to stay and spend time with one another, rather than in a conference room across the table from each other. So I think that's something that's going to help differentiate us and help that attractive magnetic power that we talked about.
Absolutely. And one thing that I'm super excited to share is that our office will be moving over there. So technology development from UT Southwestern will be embedded in this ecosystem. And so when you think about, how we want to engage with the entrepreneurs and the venture capital, we will be able to have those same collisions and be able to, be next to them at the beer garden, grab a coffee, do some yoga with them. I think that having our office, which UT Southwestern, I'm biased, of course, but the science coming out of UT Southwestern is amazing. But it's not just UT Southwestern. One of the things that has been so much fun over the last 2 years is getting to know the other institutions in the region and learning what's coming out of UNT Health Science Center, UT Dallas, UNT in Denton. And there's amazing discovery happening at all of those places. And so how do we help them with building something around that to help get that science into that development track, and really understand if it can benefit patients and become something that stands on its own. So we're very excited about that. So, COVID obviously has been the dark cloud over this entire year, but like Nicole mentioned earlier, it really did, I think, open up everyone's eyes to what is this opportunity and how important science is. I think Nicole and I have both said this a ton about, we used to have to try to convince people that investing in science and biotech was great, and we don't have to anymore. Everyone gets it. And I think it's been so cool to see the results of the virus, the vaccine trials, and that both Moderna and Pfizer's are showing over 90% efficacy. So Adam, can you talk a little bit about what have you seen in your other markets around how COVID has impacted the science? But also, just because I saw some cute pictures from the Boston site, how you've been able to incorporate a little bit of that fun into into the world while you've been kind of battling the COVID and the social things like that?
Sure. I think generally, so I'm going to steal something from Lida Hill now. I do think that we've really seen that science is the cool kid on the world stage. Whereas before it was kind of over there. Now everyone wants to understand it. People are learning what an antibody is for the first time, and my kids care about science, which they wouldn't have normally, and so I think we're seeing a lot of that. For us, it's actually there's been a flood to biolabs because all those people that were afraid to start companies that thought about what it would take to actually launch a company. Since our model is really about helping the entrepreneur, and you do the science, we'll do the rest of it. We've actually seen people sort of we have, in Boston and Cambridge, for example, we have wait lists at both our sites. We're looking at other opportunities.
Come to move to Dallas. We'll take that.
All right. But yeah.
Have you told them about our barbecue?
I've heard about your barbecue. I ate at a place called the Ferris Wheel, which has like a rusty Ferris wheel, but it was really good. So plug for the Ferris Wheel barbecue. Anyway, I think, so we've in terms of how it's changed our model, it's actually highlighted the value of, starting out small and doing bench to bench instead of trying to, tackle, a problem with 50 people all at once. In terms of having fun, we still have our sponsors, we still have our programs that we do virtually. We have amazing sponsors as part of our ecosystem. We have companies like Thermo and VWR and Panasonic. We have, local sponsors. We have big pharma sponsors, and all of those folks have been really important during this time and have been huge players in making sure that we keep this fun. We've had, trivia nights and various things that we've done virtually with all the other sites. So I don't know, in Cambridge, we've gone now to wearing masks indoors all the time. So it's a little less fun. I'd like to say that that's changed, but hopefully with the vaccines, we'll see that and we'll return to more fun. And it's hard to drink beer through a mask, Steve.
I did. Well, what I was referencing was the Halloween costume they did with herd immunity, where they all dressed up as cows.
At Lab Central, our sister organization, they all dressed up as different animals, or did all that cows and different,
with cow print masks. It was pretty cute. That's awesome. Well, I think what I'd love to talk with a little bit, Nicole, is what do you see as the water cooler and how you see that complementing what we're looking to build in the, again, in the spirit of the building?
Yeah, so water cooler is what Steve was referring to as sort of our social innovation, social impact space, which is about 150,000 square feet of socially minded tenants. As Steve said, some for-profit, a lot not-for-profit. The Dallas Foundation is obviously one of the largest community foundations here. They're taking space. We're really excited about this space and its sort of role in the campus, because I think when you think about life sciences, right, at the heart of it, it's about helping people, right? So, everything about this campus is there's a lot of talk about impact investing, right? This is going to be the ultimate impact investment in Texas, right? It's going to be one of the largest real estate impact investment plays in Texas, if not in the country. And the purpose of that, right, is if you can do good and do well at the same time, you can sustain that, to Adam's point, over the long run, right? This is the long game we're playing here. And when you think about science and you think about biotech startups, right, the goal is we want to cure cancer, we want to stop rare diseases, COVID, obviously, we want to stop, this virus. It really is about making the world a better place. And so, one of the things that I think has really come to light through the COVID situation is actually our healthcare disparities. And, you can look at the data on mortality, you can look at, how rampant the virus is in certain places, and we know that the disease doesn't discriminate, right? But we do know that our communities are not necessarily set up with the proper infrastructure to serve every human equally right now. And so the thing that makes us excited about having things like, you know, the water cooler space, you know, we joke that water cooler was like a great name about where collisions happen until COVID happened. And then you can't think of like a worse place you want to be, which is where someone's like sharing drinks, right? But it will come back. But you know, when you think about the organizations that serve the communities most at risk, many of those are going to be housed in water cooler, whether it's Commit that's thinking about equity in education, whether it's the Dallas Foundation who's financing and funding a lot of these groups. The opportunity to be able to connect those who are engaged with our community in such broad and deep ways, and particularly those communities most at risk, and help connect those people to these perhaps life-saving opportunities, I think is really interesting. Because as we know, you know, when you're focused in a lab on your own technology, you're thinking about that specific science. But we are thinking about, as Adam said, how do you take that science out of the lab and get it to the people who need it most? So the opportunity to combine those who are in our community in these ways, serving everybody and connecting that to the entrepreneurial ideas that we believe are going to be on campus, I think is something really unique that hasn't really happened anywhere else. And obviously there's a lot being written right now about these health disparities. And so to be able to connect, you know, one of the most high-tech, thoughtful, focused, you know, biotech ecosystems to the communities that need it most, I think is going to truly be a hallmark of this project and something that you really don't see anywhere else across the United States. And so that we're excited about. And not to mention just, you know, when you've got people that are sharing the mindset of making the world a better place, and by the way,
And passion,
right? And you've got the, you know, the capital structures as well, right? We're going to have venture firms there. We're going to, as we said, we've got funders as well. So it's nice to want to save the world, but the reality of it is, you know, you have to have the profits to also serve the purpose a lot of times, right? So these things in our space and Pegasus are not mutually exclusive. And I think that's the most important thing. Doing good and doing well is at the heart of the biotech ecosystem. As we talked about, everyone's talking about impact investing now, right? And, you know, Lyda, who's the namesake of what we do, would say, you know, said to me years ago when I said, you know, everyone's talking about impact investing now. She was like, is there another way to invest? Like, do you invest to do bad? Like, why would you want to do that, right? So, you know, she said, I've been doing life sciences forever because if you can make money and do good things in the world, right? The reality of it is, you know, this project, Lyda's involvement in this project has been made possible through things like her Peloton investment, which is a UT Southwestern technology that we were able to monetize to do great things for the world, and also monetize in a way that Lyda can pay it forward with that investment and reinvest in things like, you know, Pegasus and Biolabs to make, we hope, 100 more of those to make the world a better place, and obviously monetize that capital to reinvest in our own communities.
I agree, you know, and that's one of the things that I think about a lot is we've spent a lot of time trying to be Boston or be San Francisco, and we're not. And so what are we? And I think one of the things that we are, when I think about what we have that differentiates us, is that ability to address a lot of the health disparities, because we've got, you know, the challenges of getting things, you know, I'm looking at some of these vaccines and how do we get them to the Valley? How do we get them to rural Texas? How do we help people get access to the quality of care that you have in an academic medical center when you're 4 hours away from, you know, a town of any reasonable size? And so one of the things I really hope that we're able to catalyze at Pegasus, especially bringing together those nonprofits and the entrepreneurs and the big clinical problems that we're trying to solve, is something that the hubs can't solve because they don't have those problems. Because they're population dense, they have lots of academic medical centers that you can go to, and we've got a real opportunity to solve some problems that then can be exported to the rest of the middle of the country, where they're trying to struggle to manage, you know, patients with, you know, with disease and bring those exceptional cures to them that require some technology and require some special things that aren't easily found in the middle of the country. So that's something I'm really excited about.
Claire,
yes, Steve?
Sorry. The only other thing I would add about how water cooler I think we anticipate will interact with the Biotech Hub is, you know, we're not only trying to solve today's problems and today's health related issues, but we're trying to solve those in the future and to create that pipeline of talent that's interested in science and technology and healthcare outcomes. And so we're really fortunate to have three education groups as kind of our core initial our participants in the water cooler. So Uplift Education is a charter management organization that's here in North Texas that has done phenomenal work in secondary education specifically. The Commit Partnership and United to Learn are also kind of founding members of the water cooler. And so having those groups with an education focus on campus and having that right next to this Biotech Hub where students and people can come and see this actually happening. Adam mentioned his kids being excited and interested in science because of all the things going on in the world. What better way than to have people right there and to see those examples firsthand? Idaho Philanthropies has this If Then initiative that they've been working on, and Nicole can speak much more intelligently to it than I can. But I think the main concept is you need to see role models. You need to see people doing these jobs that look and sound and are like you. And I think this is a great opportunity to bring those two worlds together to create that next generation so that we're not just solving today's problems. We've got a really good bench strength and developmental team that's getting ready to solve those problems that are unforeseen.
And I think that's something that we really, I love how we've been able to think about that from the very beginning of how do we make sure that we have the workforce for these companies today, but also the workforce for the companies in 5 to 10 years, and to show that science is a career path, that there are opportunities. I know as somebody who loved science, I was kind of always told, be a doctor, be a teacher, but to show the breadth of the opportunity within the science career path and how many different ways you can, take your love of science and apply it in the real world is something that's going to be really cool and a ton of fun. So, Adam, I'm totally picking on you, and I know I'm supposed to tell Steve all the hard questions, but, when you think about the workforce development in the other ecosystems, I know Boston has some cool entrepreneurship programs for the high schools. What are some of the things that we need to be thinking about today as we start to think about our community outreach into the education systems?
Again, the hard questions go to Steve. I thought, no, I think we very much are mission driven as well. So, taking that, and I think that's why we have a good fit with Nicole and Steve and you, Claire, is that, part of having passion is also having a mission that goes along with that. So, we, for example, at our sister organization in Cambridge, we have labs that are open to high school students and for STEM programs. So we would look to do something similar in more nascent geographies like Dallas. And nascent isn't by any means meant as a bad word. It's meant as full of opportunity. So, I think we'd look to have some of those outreaches there with the students. I think one of the other things that we need to think about, quite frankly, is to Steve's point, not just today, but how do we build an ecosystem that keeps these companies here for 10 years? So, not just the bench to bench, but sort of the next evolution. So I think we need to be thinking about that. And I know all of us on this panel are thinking about that, but that's another area of development that when you take a young scientist, whether it be, just an undergrad or a grad, they're trying to figure out what to do with their career. Like you said, do you go into academia? Do you go into big pharma? Do you take a chance at biotech? Here's our chance to really say, take a chance on biotech. And when you do that, it's really choose your own adventure. You can follow it all the way into the research track, or you can follow it into the business track if that's something that's of interest to you. So I think that's
Or you can do a mosey, which is what I did. A little bit of everything.
That's after you visited Steve's beer garden. No, I think that's really those are, it's a meandering answer, but it's I think that's the key is really encouraging people that it's okay to take a chance, and we have a safety net for you. There's lots of if this doesn't work out here, I think that's why people move to Boston and Cambridge and San Francisco, because again, small biotechs, often fail. So you want to have that next opportunity lined up for you. Cambridge is a nightmare actually, because you can't retain talent if you're a big pharma. They just go out. If you're mad at Pfizer one day, you just go out across the street to Novartis. You work there for a year. You get angry. You go to Johnson & Johnson, what have you. So I think we need to build that network, and we are going to build that network through what you're doing at Pegasus, through the tower, through the different folks that you're convening there. So.
Well, and I think that's a great point that you bring up, Adam. That's something we've heard for 20 years, that why would I move to Dallas? If this biotech doesn't work, then I've moved my family to Dallas and there's not a next. And so, by bringing all of this kind of together so that there's a hub, one of the things that we were super surprised by is how much there actually was in Dallas. And it was just that it was in pockets, and nothing was really, connecting. And so, and we certainly learned that there's a lot of people who live here in Dallas, and then we're flying out every Sunday and flying home every Thursday. So, the more we can convince people that there is a next, and I think we're certainly seeing, it's been true for the last few years and only getting more, that lots of people now want to come to Texas, that the kind of pro-business atmosphere, the fact that it is a good place to raise a family, has a lot of benefits to it. We just got a question about specific initiatives around really targeting the schools, the South Dallas schools, the less, the DISD schools. And do we have anything in line for that? I know we've started some conversations with the Dallas County Community College District. Nicole, has anything else happened maybe with DISD?
Yeah, I mean, I think we don't have a specific program in place yet, but I think that's what Steve was talking about previously. We all the ingredients are there to launch the kinds of programs tied to Pegasus Park and the labs that Steve was talking about. And so again, the thing that's going on at Pegasus Park is we are really excited because we are carefully curating the group of organizations and companies that are part of this work, right? And so there are so many things that we are excited about, like, can you bring, one of the reasons Uplift was excited, right? We talked about this. Well, it's their headquarters. We have access to thousands and thousands of kids that if they have an interest in STEM careers, we can actually bring them on campus and see what a real life lab looks like. There's obviously lab technician programs that we're exploring. So we're just at the beginning of all the things that we can do. And that's what's so special about this place, right? Because not only do we have mission, we have margin, because we always say if we have no margin, so we can't have a lot of mission, but it allows you, right, to build this network of companies and organizations and do it in a way that we can have impact far beyond just the individuals themselves. And so, as Claire said, this kind of chain reaction that's about to happen is going to allow us to do all sorts of interesting programs. And, Light Hope Philanthropies for a long time has supported the Perot Museum and Solar Prep, for example, and lots of schools at DISD. And through our partnerships with people like Commit and United to Learn, we will definitely be thinking about how to develop programs that really capitalize on the science that's happening here. The If Then initiative that Steve was referring to is a perfect example. The other thing is you can have people visit on campus. We also have learned this year, right, how to use virtual. And so you can imagine a world where we can, even every day with partners like our friends at Nepris, which is a startup Texas company that's connecting kids and careers. You can use Nepris platform, for example, to connect the companies that sit in biolabs. You could literally every day have an entrepreneur or a scientist reach out to a classroom of kids and do an experiment, talk to them about what we're doing. So again, as Steve was talking about building that bench strength, we're going to be pulling every organization that we work with into this orbit to see where we sort of can cross-pollinate opportunities. And, companies like Nepris, we hope that, the other thing that's going to happen at Pegasus, right, as we talked about, is we've got a lot of interest from tech companies. We've got a lot of interest from kind of healthcare-related science companies. And so we believe that one of the things we're looking to do is not only attract talent, but we're talking to each company and each organization that comes to Pegasus and saying, what do you have that you can also offer to this community, right? So how can you help us build community? And as I said, reach out into the broader community. So we're just at the beginning of all the exciting things that can happen. So we just have to get the building built and open, and we need COVID to end. Thank you to all the scientists for making that happen so we can, get back out there and do all these things. So.
And I'd love to put in another plug for the If Then initiative, because I think, that's something that, you were so intentional around making sure that you had amazing diversity in that group of ambassadors. And the If Then initiative media trained a number of rock star women scientists to tell their story, and especially to go to those younger ages, those elementary school and middle schools, and show, here's a woman that looks like you, no matter what you look like. The If Then initiative, those ambassadors are really just the breadth of the diversity we have in our population. And it would have been so helpful, when I was that age. Again, you didn't get a lot of, certainly there weren't a lot of women in science, but, if I were a Black or a Hispanic or, someone, just to be able to see somebody that looks like you who has made a career of this and can talk to you about it. And so I'm so excited at the idea of being able to do that, not just in Dallas, but again, to figure out how we do this and then export it. How do we do this to, Iowa and Nebraska and the Valley of Texas, and really just start to open people's minds to the potential of using science as a way to add something to the world, and also to, have a good career and a good stable job.
Yeah, Claire, I think that's just so important to mention, and that's, these are sort of the ancillary benefits of being part of the Pegasus community. We're very proud today to say that even the If Then initiative and all the women that we're highlighting, and you can imagine that we can do this with, the scientists and biolabs, right? Today we hit 1.3 billion views on TikTok for a hashtag that we started all around STEM. And I know it's shocking, but we are trending on TikTok, which tells you that there are kids who are interested in what we're doing, right? So, the fact that we never would have thought we would have had 1.3 billion views. Now, some of them, I'm not really quite sure what they're doing with STEM, but that's okay, we'll take it. Because to Adam's point, this is where the kids are, and this is what they're interested in. And if we can connect that interest, right? COVID has given us an opportunity to talk to these kids in a way we never have before. And if we can connect them to things like biolabs and the companies that we're starting, we can build this ecosystem and the bench strength that we need to play the long game in Texas, because we want these kids to get interested, whether they're going to be a scientist or whether they want to be a business person, to build an ecosystem over time, right? When you look at what's happened in Boston, and when you look at what's happened, in Cambridge, right? Those things were created, they were curated, they didn't happen by accident. It was a long game that MIT and Harvard and the real estate developers, if you actually look back to what happened.
I think the city of Boston as well, and the state.
Right. So that was a real estate play, right? As much as it was a science play. And so that's why this project is really exciting, because we've got to build the bench strength. We have to have the real estate piece, right? And then we have to start the companies that then have exits that reinvest in our own community. And so this really is a long-term kind of lifelong learning play. And that's how we're going to end up with an ecosystem that's successful. We get the kids interested, we get the companies attracted here, and we have the kinds of successful exits that biolabs can help train our entrepreneurs to have. And then this thing takes off on its own. This is all about catalyzing that effort.
And I think, it's real estate is at the core, but it has to be real estate with a culture and a spirit around it to make sure that it becomes something that is, the magnet, the gravity, that it becomes a place where people want to come. It's a real destination. And so just trying to make sure that the amenities are there, which, thankfully, Steve has done an amazing job. Steve, can you talk a little bit about that? What are some of the other things that we're going to have there? We've already talked about the beer, which is super important, but some of the other components.
Yeah. I think one of the really interesting things that we've created there that's a little different than what you'd see in a traditional kind of office setting, commercial office setting, is what we're calling the Convene Conference Center, which is 16,000 square feet of meeting and conference space located in the lobby level of the tower. And that's really dedicated to all the users of the Pegasus Park campus. And so we've got a bunch of configurations. We've got, really large rooms where you could do an auditorium style lecture with 300 people. Also, all of these rooms are networked together. So if you want those same 300 people, and we're living in a COVID world, we can spread them out, socially distance everybody, have that lecture be networked. So you're there together, you're trying to take advantage of, okay, the best of technology and the best practices to keep everybody safe, but also I think we all realize it's different when you're there in person together. And so how do we bridge those gaps in the short term and try to make this be really safe and successful, and sort of take the best elements of all these best practices and put them in play there. I think that's something that's really exciting. I think what it does is allows us to, instead of going to a hotel in Dallas, which we've got a bunch of wonderful, really kind of convention event, kind of ballroom type spaces, but doing that within this campus setting is just another opportunity to create those collisions. It's another opportunity to have people come in and see what's happening on campus, to understand, whoa, here's the context for this discussion, and here's why it's exciting to be here working on, whatever science program or whatever life science program you may be dealing with in a particular moment. So it gives us an opportunity to not only attract the talent, but to attract some of those events, attract some of those conferences. Let's get everybody here to North Texas once everybody's able to travel again, so that we can do some of those things on site. And then, obviously the rest of kind of typical Class A office amenities, fitness center. We're hoping to have a childcare center on site. Lots of outdoor spaces. We're right next to some portions of the trail, the circuit trail that runs through the design district. So connectivity to some of those elements is really important, and having that ample outdoor space, which instead of walking out of an uptown office building and walking through the concrete jungle, you've got some nature, you've got some elements of being able to sit outside and not just be next to McKinney Avenue, for example. Nothing wrong with that. Those are wonderful spaces, but we think that's part of what is going to differentiate that experience. And again, it ties back into, this is going to feel like a college campus. So I think those things are really exciting. We want to create an opportunity for people to come in the morning, work out in the gym, have breakfast on site, work during the day, have lunch with a colleague in the cafeteria, meet a friend for beer in the beer garden, maybe stay for a concert. The Salmon Center for the Performing Arts is looking at a space just across Commonwealth Drive, right? Really one of our neighbors. Some surplus city property as for black box theater and things like that. This is going to be a catalyst not just for our 23 acres, but for this entire subset of Dallas, which is wedged right between the Southwest Medical District and the Design District. And so, we're kind of the elbow in that bent arm that we think is going to be really, really exciting and amenity rich and close to and easily accessible for everybody from around the Metroplex. So we're really excited about that.
And that's something we haven't even mentioned, is the proximity to both of the airports. And the idea, again, I think this might have been something that factored into BioLab's interest in our space, is that you can do a day trip to either coast when the world is more travel friendly, and that it's going to be so cool to just be able to head and have your butt on a seat on a Southwest Airlines flight 45 minutes after you leave your office, and how easy that will be. Since it is so close to UT Southwestern, just on the other side of 35, there will be shuttle buses running back and forth between the campus. And again, that was something when we talked to our faculty who were entrepreneurial, it was really important that they could run over, have a meeting with their with their startup, talk about the experiments the startups are going to be doing that week, and then head back to their own lab on campus and advancing that next discovery that could potentially come across to the campus. We've got just a few minutes left. What I wanted to kind of just ask all three of you, and I'll answer this question first since it will be a hard question, is, what is the one word that you're most excited about from this? And for me, I think the word that I keep coming back to is like reaction. Like, I want this to be a place where reactions happen, where collisions happen, and from those collisions, reactions. So I'll start with Nicole. Can you kind of maybe 3 words? What are you most excited about with this opportunity?
Oh, that's a hard one. I guess just appropriate for the world today. When I think about everything that Pegasus is, I would say good health, right? Good health for our community, good health for people, good health for the world. whether, like I said, whether it's climate or COVID, or cancer. For me, this is about, as we've all learned, without your health, you have almost nothing. So good health would be my 2 words.
Me? Oh, you're on mute, Claire.
I'm on mute.
I would
That
say
is what I want to get a shirt made for 2020. You're on mute.
you're on mute. For me, I think the word would be hope. 2 words would be hope and impact. I think, for all of us, having been in Boston, I had an office in Longwood medical area. And, at lunchtime, if those of you that aren't familiar with Longwood, there's every hospital in the world there that in Boston, you have Beth Israel, Children's, Dana-Farber, et cetera, Harvard Med School's right there. So at lunchtime, people are all on their way to, arguably, hopefully they're on their way to work. Some people are there to have the best news of their life. And unfortunately, there are people there that are on their way to have some of the worst news of their life. And so what always struck me is how cool would it be to be able to offer hope to those people in that moment that, because without hope, I think, we live our lives very differently. So I think when I think of Pegasus, I think of a place of great hope for so many people.
All right, Steve.
Those are tough to follow. I mean, this is where I get to live up to the hard question. I get to go last. I mean, I think I would say unexpected. I think in the spirit of a lot of scientific advancement, you don't necessarily you don't wind up solving the problem you started off trying to solve. And so I think we see a lot of potential in all those collisions and all the things that we've talked about over the last hour that we know are going to happen within this ecosystem and on this campus. But I'm really excited for the things that we haven't anticipated yet, that the participants are really going to bring to the table and that are going to add to this melting pot that's happening in Dallas. And so I think, we're just scratching the surface of the potential that this can bring, and as a catalyst, as a real estate development, as a biotech incubator, as a social impact hub. All these things, we have great ideas and we have real high hopes for what's going to happen, but I'm excited to see what's coming that we haven't anticipated yet.
And I think, that's one of the things that when I think about what it is we do in that innovation space, having that open mind for those opportunities that you haven't even thought about. We think about it in our office. By definition, the things that come into our office are innovations done by our scientists that have never been done before. And you have to have a really open mind to say, where can this go? And, to take the passion and the enthusiasm of this group and direct it to this project. It really is. I don't think we have any idea of where this can go because it's got so much potential. The other word I would like to say is joy, because I think we're all, really joyful about the opportunity, and, we just bring this energy, and it kind of is a little infectious. And so it's been so much fun working on this project with this group because, everybody's got so much passion and we're all so committed to trying to make science into a cure. And just so we've got just a couple of minutes left, I want to thank everybody for tuning in and listening to us talk about this. We probably would talk about it all day if we could, but also on Thursday, just want to remind everybody, and we'll put the link in the chat. The Big Idea competition is happening, and we're so excited about this as well. This is the first time UT Southwestern has ever done one, and we were fortunate enough to be able to partner with UT Dallas on their Big Idea competition. And in exciting news, so many of the startups, obviously UT Southwestern's our Biotech Plus, but a number of the companies coming out of UT Dallas also have an improving health component to it, which is really wonderful. And Mark Cuban is going to be the keynote, which is pretty exciting as far as entrepreneurs go. I think he knows what he's doing. So it'll be really exciting. So the link will be in the chat so that you can register for that event as well. And I'd like to thank my panelists. I really, really appreciated you guys. It was a lot of fun. And I will look forward to seeing where this takes us.